you do not understand white supremacy, what it is, and how it works, everything else that you do understand will confuse you. In all of these 9 areas of activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Anywhere on the planet, minute by minute, day by day, all of the time, all of the time, all of the time.
Good morning and welcome to the February the 6th, 2024 edition of the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and we are just delighted to have you to be aboard on today's programming. Thank you so much. Now, to get in contact with the show, you know the numbers, but for new people that have tuned in, we thank you for doing that. This is the number you call, which is 516-453-9921. And the procedure is to, if you have a question or a comment, I'm going to share some information, just push the number 1 button. You will get in a rotation, and when the call screener comes on, give them your name so that I could introduce you, and then you can ask your question. Or if there's a comment, you can do that also. I just would ask, ma'am or sir, that you be brief with that. Now, if you, and first-time callers, do the exact same process except for this one step here. When you give your name to the call screener, inform the call screener that you are a first-time caller, and we have something very special for you. You will be heard, so make sure you do that. All righty. Secondly, you can, if you don't feel to do that, you can Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, MRBOBBY, @gmail.com. I will get it. I will read it. I will let you know when I do that. It probably will not be read on today's programming, but I will inform you of that so you can hear yourself, your question being asked. And lastly, you can go, if you want to go into the chat room, all you have to do is go to blogtalkradio.com. And when you do that, then the menu will come up and it will say, I want to say shows, but that's not it, programming. And the program you want to do after you click that is the Produce Justice Show. Then you click on that, and then the chat room is available when you do those steps, and then you can go to the chat room and ask your questions or conversations that come on in there. I would ask, ma'am or sir, that when you are in there, that the chat room is just for the chat. So do not ask me a question to ask Mr. Fuller. That is what the previous addresses were for. You can do that. But I will occasionally take something from the chat room and formulate my own question and ask Mr. Fuller. And if it's something you said, I'll give you the credit for that. Yeah, we believe in telling the truth. Okay, I think that's it for that. Now, for those of you who missed Mr. Fuller on the Carl Nelson Show last Thursday, it is up on our website at producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. You can get that. And while you are there, if you need to order any books or review past shows, it's all there also. That's at producejustice.com. Producejustice.com. Okay, I think that is it for what I have to do going on this morning. Okay, so let's do this. Let me introduce to some and present to others Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. Good morning, Mr. Fuller, and how are you?
Good morning. I'm still learning.
Okay, sounding good, sounding strong. Okay, now, for everybody else, we have this section that we call the Thoughts and Expressions on the Mind of Neely Fuller, Jr. Mr. Fuller, today being the 6th of February, 2024, what is on your mind, sir?
I've been thinking
and keeping up with the news, and I've been thinking that black people, non-white people, victims of the system of white supremacy, should start thinking of, in order to settle this matter, this month, next month, sometimes this year, sometimes this minute, of problems with racism and all other problems that has to do with the production of justice, to concentrate all people, including white people, should concentrate on the Constitution of the United States are for America. And you can, by extension, also say Africa and Asia. And I've been thinking that everybody should start having their focus there, because that's where the focus really is, worldwide. And what I've been thinking about lately, the Constitution of the United States of America is a focus point in the minds of all of the people of the planet who have heard of the United States of America. And the question might be, because all problems are solved through questions and answers, and I've recently been really concentrating on it, just recently, where the refugees are concerned, for instance. And I've been pointing out that the people who are seeking refuge and crossing borders, etc., I've been saying that what is on these people's minds is, which way did the white people go? But I think I need to fine-tune that.
Mm-hmm.
They are really saying, because a number of the people who are coming across so-called borders classify themselves as white, or have been classified as white by the white supremacists. And so they are not saying that which way did the white people go per se. They are saying, I want to come to America. Now, what does that mean exactly? Well, America is usually described as a place, but what is it at that particular place called America? There is a set of laws called the Constitution of the United States of America. That's what it's called. And some people have said it's the most powerful document produced by people other than a document like the Holy Bible or the Quran or the Torah or writings by Hindu priests or writings by Confucius. We're talking about different religions now. But then there's the Constitution of the United States of America. And an argument can be made that is what the people from all over the world are flocking to a particular place where people say they follow the Constitution of the United States of America. So it's not people per se that they are looking for. It's for that document and the coverage that you get from that document, called the Constitution of the United States for America. And I have, in a compensatory way, extended Africa and Asia. Why? Because where are the borders? And America itself, where is it? It's nowhere, according to logic and according to evidence. America doesn't exist except as a concept. So you have the Constitution that's supposed to be a concept that's in the process, and it's called the process of producing America. They say America is a work in progress. It's yet to be. And this is something that people keep missing. Most people. They actually speak as if America exists. That's the number one mistake right there. So you can't blame Americans for doing anything because they don't exist. These are works in progress. But something does exist called the Constitution of the United States of America. And I've stuck another word in there that I think makes sense and is reliable and has balance, of/for America. And the emphasis behind that, Africa and Asia. Because when you start talking about the Constitution of and for America, you're also talking about the Constitution of and for people who say that they are Africans and Asians. Why? Because they're on the move too. And a lot of them say, I am American, or I am in America. I just crossed the border into America, but I am Chinese. And then there are other people who say, I am African, and I'm crossing the border into or going toward a place called America, but really the centerpiece of an idea called America is yet to be. But I want to go there. It's just like in that movie, Blazing Saddles. One cowboy asked another one, actually it was a white one asking a black one, cowboys, where you heading, partner? He says, well, no place special. And then the white cowboy says, no place special. I've always wanted to go there. So what are we talking about? We're talking about, what are these people crossing borders for? Are they looking for no place special? I'm going someplace, but no place special. But I've always wanted to go there. Well, the people who are on the move, about 1,000, hundreds of thousands, some people say it's getting close to millions now, or something like that, or may have surpassed it, on the move. And many of them are chasing a word, and also a condition that goes with that word. Because they say, I'm looking for a better life than what I have from where I'm coming from. Well, what was life like where you were? So they say, I'm looking for freedom. And they say different reasons. Well, this place called America has a constitution, they call it, that offers all of that. Everything that you're looking for. Otherwise, why are you looking for it? So I'm saying that black people should concentrate on this document called the United States of America, and since it's supposed to be so wonderful, how is it made wonderful? It's made wonderful, they say, by, quote, unquote, the people. Who are the people? Whomever people are. Because the people are steady coming who call themselves Chinese, Africans, all kind of tribal names. There are people who are saying, I'm looking to be a constitutional lawyer, and I am an Indian. I am a native person. I am an indigenous person. They say, well, oh, they call you the first Americans. You say, well, we were Choctaw and Seminole, and we were Dakotas before we ever heard of anything called America. But they called us the first Americans. And then there are a lot of white people who say, I'm one of the first Americans. These Indians never heard of nothing called America till I got here. I brought the idea of America. Or somebody like me did. There's some writer named Amerigo Vespucci. And he was a writer. So he wasn't even a legislator. He didn't make no laws, and he didn't call this place that he found and was writing about. He just said that he was writing about it, but he didn't call it America.
Correct.
So what's this thing called America? They say, well, after they get through squabbling and hitting each other over the head, they say, well, it really doesn't exist. It's a work in progress. A work in progress by whom? By the people. What people? You got all kinds of people who call themselves that. Say, well, it depends on who can out-talk the other. Oh. So that's what I've been thinking about. And I'm saying that black people, in order to settle this thing with white people, in a way, because right now we have come to, what do they call it, a stalemate. And that is a dangerous and not productive, certainly not productive situation to be in. Because you have that kind of situation. You have that kind of situation in what they call the Middle East. We don't want a Middle Eastern situation here.
No, not at all.
And the rest of the world at all, where you have this endless stalemate. I mean, we have to have movement for the better, okay? So here's what I'm asking this audience. I went the roundabout way of doing it, but I had to explain all that. I hope I did.
Okay, what you want to ask us, sir?
Other than the raggedy job. We have to start using more so than ever the Constitution of the United States in alliance, you might say, with the United Independent Compensatory Code System concept, and blend the two, because the two should be blended, because they're basically the same thing. That this code that I'm talking about, they just blend right in. It's not in opposition with it. It blends into the Constitution, because it's all about what? What is the Constitution for, ultimately? To produce justice and tranquility and protection and all of the good things they say that the earth affords, that the universe affords. That's it. So the code does the same thing. So there's no conflict there.
No conflict.
So the first order of business is stop accusing America of doing any harm to anybody. That's the first order of business for this audience on this phone, because that hasn't gotten through yet, even to the people that I've been talking to for all these years. People still call in on this program talking about America did this and America did that. America has not done anything to anybody, anywhere, under any circumstance, because it does not and has not ever existed. It's an idea.
Okay. Well, let's hear what the people have to say here. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Let's hear what the people say. Go to the phone lines, and let's see if I can get you in here, Corey, because I have a new screen here, so I'm just now getting adjusted to it. Okay, Corey, I think we got, there we go. Corey, you're on. Good morning and welcome to the program. What's your question or statement?
Good morning, Mr. Bobby. Good morning, Mr. Fuller. I'd like to make a quick VGQ and a question. I'm going from the word guide, Mr. Fuller, under being on automatic, racially being on automatic. Being on racial automatic, you say, use this term to apply to all of the effects that the system of white supremacy racism has on its victims, non-white people, by causing its victims to automatically say and do things again and again and again that do not produce constructive results. Under your suggestions, Mr. Fuller, you say to be calm, take notes, never express anger, or use curse words or profanity towards others. Mr. Fuller, you spoke about the Constitution. This is a document made of words. Could you expound on how important the use of words are for us as black people, for all people, in dealing with and trying to dismantle the system of white supremacy? Why the words and not using profanity is very key in fighting this war against racism. Thank you.
All right.
It gets in the way of communication. It's not the best way to communicate. If you're talking to someone, you don't have to use profanity, ever. And trial and error has shown us, or should have shown us, that it doesn't produce what? Something, two words I keep using, and I'm going to keep using them, constructive results. I've heard people cuss people back and forth and all like that, and all it does is escalates conflict. Well, we already got enough conflict. We're trying to, in the most quote unquote civilized manner, say things in a manner that produces the most constructive results. You don't use profanity towards someone or any kind of words that get in the way of producing the most constructive results. That's it. In any language, you choose words that produce the most constructive results, not the least. It doesn't make sense to do that. It's not logical. And everything in codification in the universe, and everything in the universe is coded, should be geared, should be used in a manner that produces the most constructive results. And that includes language. Language is just an activity that people have or use to communicate with one another. Words. In order to do the things that need to be done. And when you're talking about solving a race problem, it's best to just do away, or any problem, I say, this is just my view, to do away with any misunderstandings between people or to resolve any conflicts between people. What is the best way? You use words that will lead to that, the solution to problems, in the most efficient manner. The use of profanity, I don't think, will do that.
Okay.
And I think it can be put to a test if people are just cussing each other out all day long, screaming to the top of their voice, what they call the tone of voice and all that, expressing hostilities, is not the best way to communicate.
Okay.
Codification is about doing everything the best way.
Codification. All righty. Corey from Milwaukee, thank you very much. Let's break it off here. You are listening to the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr., and we thank you for doing that. Now, if you'd like to get in contact with the show, 3 ways to do that. Here's the first way. Call this number, 516-453-9921. Press the number 1 button so that you can be heard or give a VGQ. And please, ma'am, please, sir, we only have 2 hours, so please make it short so Mr. Fuller can answer the question, because you know that he's going to try to make it as clear as possible, and you know he uses examples. So give him that time by making your question, short. All right. The second way you can do that, you can Gmail me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, @gmail.com. I will get it, and at a certain time I will read it, and I'll give you the date and time, or the date, and then you can hear yourself and your question, and Mr. Fuller will answer. And the third way is by the chat room. You can get into the chat room. All you have to do is go to blogtalkradio.com. You want to click on where it says programs. Then once you get the program menu, then the shows will come up, and you want to produce Justice Show. And then you can get in there and get into the chat and get the working. Yes, Justice Warrior, that was his name, Amerigo Vespucci. Yes, okay, very good. See, our chatters are on it. They are on it. That is the way to get in contact with the show or to listen to the show. Now, you bear in mind, Mr. Fuller does give examples, because the one thing that is stressed here, you want to be clear, so there's the confusion is eliminated as much as possible. Now, you don't have to agree with it, but we want to eliminate confusion. And by the way, these are just suggestions. There's nothing mandatory here. These are just suggestions. You could take it or leave it, but anyway, that's how you do that. Books and tapes, or books rather, are available at producejustice.com. All the other information, past shows, and the past Thursday when Mr. Fuller was on the Carl Nelson show, it is up. I did listen to it, and so you can do that. Okay, I'm not going to go to a Gmail. I am going to go to my brother in Youngstown, the Yo. Yeah, the Yo is getting a lot of attention on this show. Talif. Let me see if I can get you in here, Talif. Yes. Wait a minute. Let me run it up here. Okay. And by the way, Talif, somebody sent me, I think, what's that person's name? I don't know that person's name. Oh, yes. Bree sent me what might have got James Traficant and you and I in the world discussed last week in trouble, the U.S. bankruptcy speech by James Traficant. They sent it to me in PDF form. Didn't have a chance to go over it, but I liked him. A lot of people didn't, but I think he did a lot, particularly for black people up in the Youngstown area. But anyway, be that as it may, Talif, you're on, my brother. Speak to us.
Top of the morning, Mr. Bobby, Mr. Fuller. Hope things are well. That was me. I sent that from one of my other Gmails,
okay.
Natural Person. Yeah, my company name is Breeze Creations LLC, but I named it that because my dad was big in the CB radio when we were growing up, and my handle was Cool Breeze, and I shortened it to Breeze. So but that was for me because I know you talked about it. I said he probably liked that, but you should read it. It's a real good thing, and yet. That was one of the things that really got him when he did that bankruptcy speech, and he told the people how this is basically a corporation. They really started getting on him then. But anyway, Mr. Fuller, I got a couple of things. I was going to do something different today about the violence, but when you talked about the Constitution, I'm going to shift a little bit. And to me personally, I think the Constitution was a contract. To me, if you ask me, it was the first, basically, affirmative action program for the Europeans that immigrated here that we call white folks. To me, it was a contract that was drawn up by people to establish and limit the powers of the governing institutions. But we don't make our voice loud enough to make the government understand that they should be working for us. And you mentioned America. Well, in the 1828 Webster's Dictionary, which is an American they have as a noun, it is listed as a native of America, and and this is from Webster's Dictionary now, this is not me. A native of America originally applied to the the aboriginals or the copper-colored races found here by the Europeans, but now applied to the descendants of the Europeans born in America. So I just thought maybe I'd bring that out. But something else I want to say, and if I put a copper penny on my skin, they're talking about us. My grandmother told us a long time ago who we were, and I've traced my family almost 500 years back to this land. But that's not where I want to go with that. Since you kind of brought up America and the Constitution, Mr. Fuller, I believe our people have been brainwashed, and that's why I call us dead in the head. But I want to ask you a question, also make a comment. We have been taught to believe in Jesus, God, Allah, the Constitution, everything else. But we are always the ones that get dumped on. And I understand that a lot of that is we don't change our mindset. But one thing I want to ask you, Mr. Fuller, why is it that our people have been inundated with religion, the Bible, trust your pastor, trust God, trust Jesus, and when you die, you would get your pie in the sky, when everybody else that comes here, whether it's the Asians, so-called Mexicans, so-called Arabs, they open stores in your communities, we use their banks, we buy their cars, but we've been taught well, if you only wait for Jesus, you'll get your pie in the sky. But everybody else gets and takes what they want when they hear Mr. Fuller. And I always tell people this. When you go to church on Sundays, wherever, Saturdays or Sundays or Wednesdays, wherever you go, the pastor always tell you, if a man robbed God. Well, if you cheating God, then why are you putting your money in the plate at church? And I said this one time. I went to church with somebody for a funeral, and I said, you know, if they say you're going to rob God, then maybe y'all should gather in a circle, and wherever you think that light going to shine, take your money out your pocket and throw it in the air. And whatever God can't catch with his hand, pick it up, put it back in your pocket, and go home and learn something different.
Hey, Talib, what is your primary question?
So, Mr. Fuller, why is it that we have always been the ones that think we got to wait for Jesus to come get it, but everybody else comes over here, they open stores. Why is it that we always have to be the ones that wait?
Okay. All right. Mr. Fuller?
Depends on who tells us that. Now, who does the telling to black people all over the world? The white people who practice and who believe in what? The system of white supremacy. It has nothing to do with here and there and over yonder in the Bible or nothing like that. It's one system of government worldwide who do all of the telling to black people, and black people do the hopping after they're told what they had better do or else. And that is the white people who believe in and who practice the system of white supremacy. Has nothing to do with America, Africa, Jesus, none of that. It's all about what the white supremacists say to black people about what you had better do or else. That's all. And if we can get that through our heads after all these years, stop talking about America and Jesus is not doing anything to anybody. I mean, it's all the white supremacists. All of it. Not some of it. Everything is traced to them. And who are the white supremacists? Those white people who have figured out a way to dominate and mistreat people in all areas of activity based on the color of the skin of those people who they have selected to be dominated and mistreated. That's it. If we can ever absorb that and just, we're just finding all kinds of things all over the place when that's the only real target.
Mm-hmm.
The system of white supremacy. And it needs to be replaced with what? The system of justice. It's
system of justice.
I
Correct.
mean, after we do all the talking, it comes down to that. We need to replace the system of white supremacy with the system of government. The system of white supremacy, you don't have a Christian government or Muslim government, not when it comes to people of color. You have one government, and not the United States of America government. It has nothing to do with that. Nowhere. There's no resemblance. None. Zero. It's the
Correct.
system of white supremacy is the only government on the planet worthy of being called government.
Yes, sir. And if I may add, it also, which you say at the beginning of every program that you and I have been on, and I have heard you say it on other programs, the opening statement, if you don't understand white supremacy. Mm-hmm.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. Say it, Mr. Fuller. Say it.
If you don't understand racism, white supremacy, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you.
Period. That's it.
And that's why we've been around here all these times, including, like I said before, right on this program. We're just like robots. We keep saying, well, America did this to me, and then even America doesn't exist. We need to stop doing that. And they say, okay, Mr. Fuller, you say America doesn't exist. Well, what is doing that harm to me? And I say it all the time. That's what my program is about. That's what this program is about. The system of white supremacy. How come we can't say that? We keep talking about Christianity and Islam and this and that, and we're all over the place. We've got one culprit here.
Yeah.
The system of white supremacy. That's it.
Exactly. To show you how dominant that is, somebody on not this year, but last year, talked about the people in North Sentinel Island, I believe it was, and how protective they are, and you go over there, they'll kill you, and all that stuff right there. But it doesn't matter because the system allows them to exist, because anytime the system wants to go in there and take them out, they can take them out, period. That's it.
In 2 seconds.
And maybe less than that.
Yeah.
Just like that. Yeah. That's how it is. So, again, if you don't understand white supremacy, racism, and you got to pause there, if you don't understand it, then everything else that you think you understand will only confuse you. You know, just like when people call in today and have called in. And they basically, and this is not a criticism, but I listen, and you basically ask the same questions. You bypass that most important statement if you don't understand. Talif, I'm going to read that trafficking thing. I liked him anyway. Thank you for calling in, brother. Appreciate it. Okay, let's go to Victor in Canada. Let me see here. Victor, Darnell, I got you in the bullpen. Okay. All right, Victor, yeah, there we go. Good morning. What's your question for Mr. Fuller?
The question for Mr. Fuller is, Mr. Fuller, I know that racist white supremacists engage in a lot of racial dislocation, confusion, and I'm currently dealing with that. So now they have placed me in an area where they have their race soldiers and they have all of their non-white buffers, and they put me in a room where I'm surrounded by all of them. And all they just do is instigate fights, conflicts. And yesterday they attempted to put something in my drink. So I'm just trying to figure out more codified ways to deal with the stress and create that codified quality relationship and replace it from the tragic arrangement. So I want to get that universal lifestyle expressed through the truth, that which is, in such a manner that results in justice and correctness. How do you do that?
Good question.
I'm going to say this again. For the 1,000th time, I'm going to keep saying it. All problems, universal, everywhere, are solved by what procedure? That's the question. Questions and answers, that's the answer to that question. How are all problems solved? Through the process of questions and answers. So if you're in a job situation, you just ask people, what are we here for? That's a question. and never move to the second question until the first question is asked and answered.
Exactly.
That's why we need a code. See, when you got the code in mind, I mean, it makes everything smoother.
Yes.
I mean, because the universe runs on codes.
Yeah, exactly.
The entire universe. People at NASA Space Center, and I've spoken there too. We can't go to the moon and back without a code. And so what is a code? The best way to go about doing things.
Yes, exactly.
And the best way to solve problems, people have found out, including at the Space Center, is through what? Questions and answers.
Questions and answers.
When you go into a school, what we call a school, of course the whole universe is a school, you go in there with questions. When you go to court, questions.
Yes.
Why are we here? That's what they'll say in court. See, that's the first thing they start with. All right, what's on the docket today? That's the same as asking why are we here. And then somebody will answer. Well, the docket says number 2. Okay, number 2 docket says this trial is about murder. Okay, the next question. And then on and on and on. Then they put somebody on what they call the witness stand. And what does that consist of? Questions and answers.
Questions and answers, yes, sir.
See, that's it.
Yes,
An
sir.
answer to the question that's just been asked by the caller.
Yes.
I keep saying, don't turn loose to that. So on this job, you can ask people. Of course, that's what I did. I was on a job for many years. And it was only when I started making sense to myself, I latched on to that universal law, questions and answers. So I would ask people, what are we here for? We meaning all of us who are here. So somebody might ask that. What do you mean, we?
Yes.
I said all of us who are here.
All of us who are here. And going back to that statement that you open up every program with, let me just add this to this. Once you think about the logic of that statement, and Victor, you did ask a good question. Once you start examining and you're asking a whole lot of questions, then you ask yourself, well, then it comes down to what are you going to do about it, or what am me? What am I going to do about it? And the answer is simple. Although it took me a long time to get to this, you have to practice justice. What do you mean? Not only do I have to say it, but I got to live this thing. Whether you hear me on the radio or see me out in the street, I have to live this thing. It's not just words. I got to live this thing with all its challenges. And yes, you're going to be challenged. I'm going to be challenged. Fuller is challenged. You are challenged. You got to live this thing even when you don't want to. You got to live this thing. That's why it's so important. You got to live practicing justice and doing it. Not just saying it, because as Brother Talif had pointed out, you see people doing a whole lot of things, saying one thing and doing another, or talking loud and saying nothing. Crazy. Victor, good question today, my brother. Good question. Okay, let's continue on the phone lines. Darrell, excuse me. Here I go again, making a mistake. Darnell, I apologize. Right in front of me, and I can't even pronounce your name. Darnell in New York. Let me see if I can get you in here. Okay, new screen. Okay, there you go, Darnell. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Bobby. Good morning, Mr. Fuller.
Yes.
I have a VGQ today.
Go ahead.
I actually first want to piggyback on what Mr. Fuller said earlier about the universe being ordered. Yeah, I think it's numbers that controls the whole universe. It's called numerology. But I got a VGQ. I just want to read the bullets on the back of the book. of the Compensatory Counter-Racist Code System book, the 2016 version. It's on the back of the book, the back of the book, literally. It's 9 bullets. I'll read them real quick. The first one says, racism has done more to promote non-justice than any other socio-material system known to have been produced or supported by the people of the known universe. The second bullet is, no major problem that exists between the people of the known universe can be eliminated until racism is eliminated. The third bullet says, the fear, frustration, malice, and confusion that is caused by racism and white supremacy retards or prevents all constructive activity between the people of the known universe. The next bullet says, the only form of functional racism that exists among the people of the known universe is white supremacy. The next bullet says, the people who have the ability to eliminate racism do not have the will to do so, and the people who have the will to do so do not have the ability. The next bullet says, regardless of all that has been said and done, the quality of the relationship between white people and non-white people is and has been a total disaster. The next bullet says, justice is better than racism. The next bullet says, as long as racism exists, anything said and done by people that is not intended to help eliminate racism and to help produce justice is a waste of time and energy. The last bullet states, each and every victim of racism should minimize the time and effort spent doing anything other than thinking, speaking, and acting in a manner that helps to eliminate racism, white supremacy, and helps to establish justice. Racism is balance between people. Each and every person should seek to do this every day in every area of activity, including economics, education, entertainment, labor law, politics, religion, sex and war, counter war. Thank you.
All righty. Simple. Thank you there, Darnell. Thank you very much. All that did is just what I said. We got to practice it. You got to live this. You just can't talk about. You got to live it. There's no fake involved in this. No fake. You got to live this thing. AP, get ready. Get ready, AP. Let me see if I can get it over there, AP. Okay. All right, AP. Wait a minute. Yeah, AP, are you there?
Yes, I am.
There
Hello,
you
Mr.
are.
Bobby.
Okay.
Hello, Mr. Fuller.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I have a VGQ comment, and I want to make a comment about Mr. Fuller's statement this morning, which was a good one. Endless, what was that? Endless stalemate was a good one because it's something that I think about quite all the time as far as what goes on in the system of racism, white supremacy. The problem that I want to get to also is in reference to last week's radio show that I had with you when I brought up the issue of truth, and truth being a point of contention, especially when dealing with white supremacists or anyone that doesn't want to hear too much truth coming from anybody. And one of the questions that Mr. Fuller, or he made a comment about was, what is a Republican? What is a Democrat? And my answer to that is it's an identified group like the GOP, which is a reference point of what a lot of people talk about when you're watching the news and the activities of what goes on day to day. We're in a war that's going on 2 or 3 different locations. Another one where some soldiers were killed in Syria, and this powder keg we've been talking about, we can see it developing right before our eyes right now. They even have it on television. Every time you turn on the television, especially on MSNBC, CNN, you're watching a war in live. One of my questions is, Mr. Fuller, one thing that I do want to make a comment about is the truth. I brought that up last week. As far as the truth is something that's being suppressed, and it's creating, and it's done so intentionally, in my opinion, to create and produce confusion and chaos. And as far as the Constitution, which you spoke about this morning, Mr. Fuller, there's no question that's on trial all across the board, and truth is being suppressed. So my question to you, Mr. Neely Fuller, why do you think, could you explain to us why the truth is being suppressed? Because too much truth is exposing the liars and connivers and all those who are enablers to allow the white supremacists to continue to do what they do, speaking to that very quote you said this morning, endless stalemate.
Okay.
Our listeners, please.
Okay. Mr. Fuller?
The white supremacists are opposed to anything dealing with revealing what is, because that's what truth, the definition according to the code, the codified definition is truth. First of all, you have to identify your words. So what is truth anyway? What does the word truth mean? It means that which is. That which is what? Is what it is. Black people have a slang for it. Tell it like it is, not like it ain't. That's not truth. Just look at something. We call it, and the white supremacists invented this term, call a spade a spade. Now, first of all, a spade is black, so they're the usual suspects when it comes to who invented that term. Call a spade a spade. Okay. And when you talk about a deck of cards, they say spades. When you think of spades, you think of something black on that deck of cards. The white supremacists understand that kind of language, okay? Because a lot of their card games and ball games and all other kind of games have to do with race or racism. Like, you ever stop and think about the game of pool? White ball left on the table after all the colored balls are knocked under the table. The white ball is the controlling ball. And what's the last ball that gets knocked under the table in the game of pool? The black one. They call it the 8 ball. And it's the white ball that knocks it under the table. See, we have to understand what we are looking at. Racism is expressed everywhere. That's why the system is so wonderful when it comes to evil work. So it's the same way with words. That's what we're dealing with right now. Words. So you have to get control of the language and turn it in such a manner, in answer to your question, that it always reveals truth about everything, even when the truth hurts. Right now, a lot of white people are saying this 1619 project and the woke people are coming too close to the truth, that white supremacists is the dominant government of the entire planet. And the white supremacists don't want people to ever say that. They want to say, well, now if you're looking for, government, it's the communists. No, it's the socialists. Oh, it's the monarchists. One government on this planet of people by people, and that is the system of white supremacy.
That's it.
White supremacists, in order to deceive people, because you can't control people without deceiving them.
Exactly.
Send us all on every other kind of goose chase that they can think of. Well,
got to leave it there, Mr. Fuller.
Yes,
I'm so sorry. Got to leave it there because we have to go to the second hour. Mm-hmm. Thank you, AP. You really hit on something there. Distractions and all that stuff. Yeah, that's what war is. But anyway, thank you for everybody that listened to the first hour. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Thank you for all your calls. And I didn't get to a Gmail. I was getting ready to, but I couldn't. But thank you. We will, and I will try to do better next week. I'll try to do better. But thank you for listening. Now, for those who have to go, be careful out there. But those who are going to stay, I got you. I got you. Solar Beam and Corey, I got you. So stay tuned for the second hour, which will begin in 5 seconds. All righty. Welcome back to the second hour of the Counter Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. And I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby. Get in contact with the show. Get those fingers ready, or however your device is, and do this. 516-453-9921. And press the number 1 button if you have a question or comment, or if you just want to listen. Tell a friend, too. They can listen and find out about this outstanding program. You can do that. You can also Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, MRBOBBY @gmail.com. I will get that, and I will, it will go into a stack, actually. And then when the call volume is not so heavy, then we'll have a chance to read them. So you can do that. You can also go into the chat room. All you have to do is go to blogtalkradio.com. And once you get in there, you want to look for programs. You find the program thing or thingy, and then you press that, and then the chat room. Then you want to go to shows, and the shows you want, or the show you want, is the Produce Justice show, and then you click on that, and the chat room becomes available for you to enter into. You can do that. By the way, first-time callers, if you are a first-time caller, please make sure that you give the call screen of your name, because you have some rights that have been granted to you that you may not be aware of. So make sure you tell that, and so that we can exercise those rights to you. All righty. All right, we'll get on with that. And AP, who was in the last hour, you are correct, and I've come to the conclusion, but this suggests to me that war is just a distraction. All these little wars, who's getting the money? Because, you know, it costs money to finance wars. Who's getting the money? Yeah, distractions. Solar rock or solar beam in the rock. Oh yeah, down in the rock. You don't want to mess up in the rock either. Ooh, no, Lord have mercy. Solar beam, talk to us this morning.
Yes, peace and love to all. This is Brother Solar Beam. Now, I guess I was just praying about, well, first, peace, love, and respect to all. My question is, Mr. Fuller, we talk about we have to live this. Now, the second part of your code, where we have to research who might need the most constructive help, I want to know, have you ever researched or challenged anyone to help those that need the most constructive help? Now, the brother was on earlier talking about how the church, we talk about 10% of a tithe. Should we be looking at each other to tithe to each other? They say it's nation time. It's the age of Aquarius, where we won't be able to be deceived by the other tribes or the white race. Do you think that we should have a code where we should be able to know that all the millionaires, the trillionaires, billionaires that we have should be able to help each other? I'm saying it's nation time because it's Black History Month. Look like we ought to start somewhere where we would tithe our, like my little $900 a month, because I'm retired. I would be able to, if I could follow suit. And do you, in your book, tithe to any of these people that need the most constructive help? That's my question, and thank you.
Okay.
What do you mean by tithe?
Tithe in the church, we say you take a percentage of what God has blessed you with, and you bless others. And that second part of your code, you say no one is mistreated, but those that need the most constructive help get that help. And that's the way that we could help. They say we as a people, and I got this little thing where we call people of color for more. We want more, but if we're not going to get it from the white tribe, we could help each other by producing justice with people that need the most constructive help. I hope you're understanding what I'm saying. That's why I had to pray about this, because I didn't want to put you on the spot and put nobody else on the spot, especially the people that have the most monies. But it seems like we've been buying your book for ages, but we never talk about how any of your monies could go to help those that need the most constructive help. Like Brother Bobby say, we have to live this thing. So that's my question. Have you thought about tithing, or some of the proceeds that come from your book go to those that need the most constructive help? Because that's what we say, a challenge.
Well, if the question is, and I think I got the question, does Neely Fuller use the proceeds from the sales of my book to tithe? And tithe means to help the people who need the most help. And the answer is yes, I do that. And now, how many people do I help? First of all, I do what the code says. I help myself with the sale of my books, all right? Mm-hmm. Why do I help myself? Because I need the most help in order to help somebody else in my particular situation, because I don't sell that many books, all right? Now, do I help other people from the sale of my books? Yes. I have what you call the family in popular language. Actually, the code calls it care unit. I have people that I have to care for. The people that you care for are the people that are right near you the most, and people who you have obligations to. In other words, your assignment is, because they are people who are dependent on you, they get a little help, and it's very little, from me. But I do what I can afford to do. I am not a major bookseller. People might assume that. I could not actually, what you might call, live, whatever that means, quote unquote, live off of what I get from the sale of my books and pay my bills. I would be on a curb right now if I tried to do that. I would be sitting on a curb with no shelter. I would be looking for shelter. I'd be looking for help, big time. But I have revenue coming from other sources that I depend on. For one thing, I'm retired from a job. I'm not just an author sitting somewhere raking in millions. People assume that if you're a writer, you're automatically some type of millionaire or billionaire. There are writers who are. I'm not one of them. Nowhere near being in that category. If that answers your question.
Okay.
But the code says, I follow the code. Otherwise, I write it.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to follow it myself. In fact, I depend on the code.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I'm with you on that, Mr. Fuller. And I had to learn how to do what the brother was talking about. But that's a faith and trust in, I'm just going to say, a faith and trust in God to do what I am supposed to do in all those areas, not only to, if you will, and I'm using air quotes that you can't see, the church. And if you read in I think it's 1 Corinthians 6:19, that you are the church. Mm-hmm. The building is the brick and mortar. But I also go above that. That's not to pat myself on the back, but I can be anywhere and somebody have a need, or I see something, and then because of the excess that I may have, I do that too, over and above that. See, we got to live this thing. Somebody helped me, and I'm helping somebody else as I'm still learning how to be better. Again, you got to live this thing. You got to study this thing. You just can't. I just can't talk about it. I got to live it. If you don't see me, you don't know me. But if you did see me, I have to be doing this. I can't just be on the air just doing one thing, saying one thing and doing another. That's what a lot of people do. I don't want to do that. I'm trying as best as I can do, practice justice. Practice justice. Mr. Fuller, two quick things here. Have you ever heard, since it's supposed to be Black History Month, but I believe Black History is 24/7, 365, have you ever heard of the Harlem Hellfighters?
Harlem Hellfighters?
Yeah, the Harlem Hellfighters out of Harlem, New York.
No.
That was sent over to in France and what they did. Okay, anyway, there's a good documentary about them. I think it was on the History Channel. Good information about how our people did, and you can, if you look at it, you can see even how they were treated and so forth. But I thought that was a very good. I think that was.
Was that World War I or II?
Yes.
Which
World
one?
War I. Mm-hmm.
World War I.
Yes, sir. And
okay.
then the second one was the 761st Tank Battalion. The people over in Germany called them the Black Panthers because those were some bad brothers and how they were treated. They did a lot
that was in World War what?
Now that was in World War II.
Okay.
The 761st Tank Division, bad brothers. Looked at that document. Morgan Freeman, I think, narrates it, but that's very good. And finally, you made this statement a few shows back. It said, and somebody asked me to have you explain this: hope for the best, but expect the worst. Can you go into a little detail about that, please?
Yeah, that's an old expression. I heard that. I don't know who originated it. I don't know who the author of that is, but expect the worst and hope for the best. And so,
okay.
I think the intention of the person who said it, because I didn't invent that term, but I believe in it. Expect the worst. In every situation, on a job and all like that, expect the worst. Don't go in this, don't go on it thinking that everything is going to be an easy ride and all like that, because that sets you up for what? Disappointment. And then problems. Your problems become more and more inflated. You might say.
I like that word.
They become worse. When you go in expecting something wonderful to happen and it doesn't. No, go in every situation expecting the worst. But you work for the best. And how do you work for the best? Questions and answers. You ask questions. And we have to practice in our own minds what questions to ask. And what the white people that you work with alongside and the black people, you say, what are we here for? What should we be here for? Always have another question and another question. And have these questions codified in your mind. Have all the questions you think you'll ever ask or ever will be asked have an answer before you even go where you're going, whether it's on a job or anywhere else.
Yes, sir.
When you're going to interact with people. Have your questions ready long before you even meet the people. That's what codification is about. So you don't have to do all that last-minute thinking. I have the answers. You know, the questions and the answers when I go anywhere. Before I get there, I have the questions to ask, and I have the codified answers, which are my answers. But I want to, when I ask a question of somebody else, I'm not looking for my answer. I'm looking for theirs.
Yeah.
And don't get that mixed up, because you already got your answer.
Yes, sir.
Or you should have. That's what a code is about. Having your answers to questions before the question is even asked.
Yes, sir. And I thank you for that, Mr. Fuller, because I know that since you and I have been together doing this, and I listen, and because I'm still learning. And one of the most powerful things you said to me, other than that first statement that you always make on every program, is to tell the truth, to be truthful. And as I began to do that, to tell the truth, sometimes it does hurt, but tell the truth, because a lie you got to remember. You got to remember who you said it to, what was the circumstance. It's easier to tell the truth, and yes, it might hurt sometimes, but tell the truth. Practice that. That's what I'm learning. Basically, I'm speaking to myself. Practice that. I got to live this thing. I can't fool around with it, even in this community that I'm in now, because it not only affects me, but affects others who listen to me or who are around me, who see me and observe me. If I'm out there doing something that I wasn't supposed to be, yeah, that's that guy right there. No, I got to be truthful. I got to tell the truth. That is practicing, and living the code. And it's not going to be easy all the time. No. But anyway, I thank you for that. All righty. Let's see here. Go back to the phone line. Okay, here we go. Hey, I'm back for a second slice of the action. Corey. Wait a minute. See here, Corey. Okay, new screen. Okay, Corey, go ahead.
Thanks again, Mr. Bobby and Mr. Fuller. I wanted to give a VGQ that what you've spoken on, Mr. Bobby and Mr. Fuller, about putting the code into practice, and it all comes back, as I'm listening, it comes back to the use of words. I had an interaction with a white associate who I very highly suspect is a white supremacist racist. The code in action, I asked what several words meant, and I asked, following your code, Mr. Fuller, and suggestion that, can you explain what this word means to me in a way that I can understand without being confused? What I have observed from living and trying to live this code and do the best, this incensed and made this person very angry, and it exposed the system of white supremacy racism, which thrives off of confusion and violence and indirect violence. So I just wanted to thank you for everything you've both been saying today about living this code. And you're free to respond or not respond. Thank you. Can I stay on the line,
Corey,
Mr. Bobby?
Thank you, Corey. Mr. Fuller, you care to respond to that, or we'll move on?
Yes. Now, that calls for another question. See, there's always another question until all questions are answered. That's how the problems of the world are solved. Problems of anywhere on the planet, any minute of any day. Now, the caller just said that he was talking to a white person, and the white person got angry. That calls for a question. And the logical question would be what? If it was a male or female, if it was a male, you say, sir, always be polite. Why are you angry? Or a better question, if I was right now faced with this, I would say, now, can I ask this question in a better way than I started to ask? Now, a better question. Of course, you're always going to use the very best question. Sir, are you angry? See, just because a person looks like they may be angry or something like that, no, the first thing you want to know is, what is the truth going on? You're looking for the truth.
Yes.
Sir, are you angry at what I said? And then you ask, why? After he answers that question, he says, yes, I'm blankety blank angry. Sir, why are you angry about what I just said? And never interfere with the answer, and never argue about the answer. Just be ready with the next question. You got to remember that. Don't start making statements after they give their answer. Be ready with the next question. Be ready with the next question if you have a next question. And if you don't have, the person might, or he might say, well, what do you got to say to that? And if you don't have an answer to what he just asked, you say, I'll have to think about what you just said. And then I will have the answer, I hope, after I think about it. Because the code is about, first of all, before you say or do anything to anybody, you do what? Think. T-H-I-N-K. Thought, then speech, then action. It's right on the cover of the textbook itself. A textbook workbook for thought, speech, and or action for victims of white supremacy. Mm-hmm. But the first word is think.
Think.
And you just let people know that, because that's what? The truth. I have to think about that, sir. Well, can you give me an answer right now? I can give you an answer, but it may not be the best thing to do. I have to think about the answer, so I'll be doing something that has what? The most constructive result. And then you can ask that question of the person. Sir, don't you want an answer from me that produces the most constructive result for everybody, me and you included?
Yes. Okay.
And then wait for their answer.
And wait for the answer.
His answer. Right. See, it's all about questions and answers.
Yes, sir. It is.
You start making a whole lot of statements without thinking about it, you're already messed up.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, stay in the question mode.
Mm-hmm.
Have questions about everything. Hold up your hand, first of all, and ask, can I have permission to speak?
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm going to speak to you, I've got to get the person's permission.
Mm-hmm.
All right? That's codified procedure. That's showing that, that you're trying to help, not hurt.
Not hurt. Right.
Somebody's already hurting.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Correction on my part, not on Mr. Fuller's part, on my part. I may have made a mistake. I think I did, but I'm not sure. But just in case, so I can be correct, Solar Beam had called in, and he was talking about the tithes in church and asked Mr. Fuller a bunch of questions and so forth. And I had mentioned to him a scripture in 1 Corinthians. I may have said 2 Corinthians, but it is 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 19 and 20. All it says is, do you not know that your bodies are the temples of the Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit, who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own. You were bought at a price. Therefore, honor God in your bodies. That's when I understood that we are, since God is in us, we become the church, not exactly the brick and mortar, although we do go to the brick and mortar. but you are it. But it took me a long time to find out about that. Anyway, so I just want to make that correction. Okay, now, Mr. Fuller, last week when we entered into the month of February, you had mentioned this, or going to enter into the month of February. You had mentioned the speeches of Martin Luther King, and I have listened to many of his speeches ever since I was a teenager, and I basically loved them all. But one of the speeches that came to my mind, and I was wondering if you had heard this. This is just a little excerpt from it. He said he was speaking, and I don't know what he was speaking or to whom he was speaking to, but I remember this part. He said, if you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. If you can't crawl, row. But whatever you do, keep on moving. And that was so inspirational to me as a youth coming up. What are your thoughts on that, Mr. Fuller?
Exactly what I've been saying. That's the code right there. You keep on keeping on. As you go through life, Memphis Slim said, as you go through life, you can't help knowing you can always get help, but only the way you're going. In other words, they say, well, ain't no point in going there. Ain't no point in trying to do this. Ain't no point. People will say that. You say, yeah, but I'm going to try to keep going as long as I can.
Yes, sir.
Well, you ain't gonna never get there. It ain't gonna happen. People have told me that the system of white supremacy is forever. I mean, you can't defeat it. I mean, it's forever. But I say I'm gonna keep trying to replace it with the system of justice. Why? Because the option is to stop trying. Mm-hmm. And that's out of the question. That's just out of the question. I'm put here for that. Yeah, to keep on keeping on regardless of what anybody does or says. Why? Because it's in the way of doing what should be done, and that's having a world where nobody is mistreated, and that the people who need help the most get the most constructive help. And that is my absolute reason, according to logic, for being here. So why give up on the reason I'm here? That doesn't make sense. There's nothing logical about that.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Once you know why you're here.
Know why you're here.
Okay, right.
Tell you what we're going to do. We're going to break it off for the final break here. You're listening to the Counter-Racist Code Show with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby. Now, to get in contact with the show in the remaining moments, or at least a little more than a half hour, this is the number, 516-453-9921. Question or comment, press the number 1 button. Give the call screener your name so that I could try and give you a proper introduction. Secondly, you can do this. First-time callers, give the call screener your name and mention that you are a first-time caller, and we'll see what we can do about that. We have something special for you. You can also Gmail me at the numero 7. I don't think I'm going to get to the Gmails today, but the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, B-O-B-B-Y, at gmail.com. Put it in there, and I will acknowledge that I did get it and have it, and I don't know when it will be read, but at some point in time it will be read. And lastly, you can get into the chat room. All you have to do is go to blogtalkradio.com, and when you do that, then you want to go to the program menu, click on programs, and then the shows come up, and the show that you want to stop at is the Produce Justice show. Produce Justice. You click that on, and the chat room becomes available to you, and you can, as the Watts 103rd Street Rhythm Band used to say, you can do your thing. in the chat room. Okay, got to do this here. Thank you very much. Got to do this here. Mr. Fuller, we've discussed everything. We've been talking all about the book, and there's been some references about the book, and even the word guy. I think somebody had mentioned Darnell mentioned something about the word guy, what was on the back of it and so forth. So briefly, Mr. Fuller, can you speak about your book, please, sir?
Go to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. And I think at that website, I haven't seen it lately, it has about the author on the back of the book. And it has everything, or I intended to have enough information about the book to say what the book is about. And a person in the first part of this program today read everything that's on the back of the book.
Yeah.
Now, I think that is at that website. People who go to it right now might see it, because I requested that it be put there. At the back of the book, all the volumes, the basic book, the original, and the revised edition, all have the same thing on the back of the book. And it's about the author, but it says enough about the author up at the top. But then it tells what the book is about. I mean, so that you get an understanding right then whether or not it's worth looking into. Because I think it makes I go to it myself, because I forget what I write. So I look at it. I'm looking at it right now. And it tells what the book is about, that you can get by going to producejustice.com. And that's, all of the volumes. There's 3 volumes you might see there advertised. But all of them have that same thing on the back of the book itself. You read the back of the book, and you got or should have, an idea, or a number of ideas, about what the book will tell you that the book is for. And I do think that I made an adequate case for what the book is supposed to do. Help you to do as an individual person who is what? A victim of, a prisoner of, a slave to the system of white supremacy. That's what the book is about. A servant to the system of white supremacy. I then introduced myself on the back of the book as being having those titles in a brief way. That I'm a long-time victim of the system of white supremacy. So the book is about what to do about it, how to go about as an individual person, not necessarily a member of an organization or anything like that, because you are an organization.
Yes.
An organization, a majority of one, in counter-racist science. Look at yourself that way. And the book says that's how you should look at yourself. That you don't have to look over your shoulder. You don't have to check with anybody else. That the book is supposed to tell you how to be able to function wherever you are in a manner that produces the most constructive results, wherever you are. whatever constructive results that you can get out of the situation that you're in, wherever you are, any time of day or night. You can get the book or the volume by going to producejustice.com. But if you just want to get right to the point of finding out whether or not the books the volumes may be of interest to you, just read the back of the books. And the back of the book, all the same, the volumes, and they say what the book is about. I mean, I think I did a workable job. I couldn't say that it's the best job I could do because I don't know what that limit is. But I think I did the best that I could at the time that I wrote it. I probably could add dozens or more things. But that would be explained in the book itself.
Exactly.
But I think that's a pretty good intro. But go to producejustice.com.
All right.
And then see what you see.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Fuller. Okay, back to the phone lines, and he's back for a second slice of the action. Victor, Canada, do your thing.
Oh, hi, Mr. Bond, Mr. Fuller. Mr. Fuller, I guess what I was trying to ask you before is when you're asking questions in order to solve a problem, who do you know who to speak to when you need a problem solved? Because the white supremacists decide what people of color can get and what we don't get, since we have inferior power. And I'm trying to use my immediate power to solve my problem.
You ask. Here again, you ask a question. What's the logical question when you're just asking me right now? Who do you go to see? You ask people, who do I go, wherever you are, you ask whatever people you see. Who do I go to see to find out where the bus stop is? So you ask somebody, and one person might refer you to somebody else who refers you to somebody else and refers you to somebody else if they don't know themselves. Sometimes the first person you ask, oh, you want to know who to see to find the bus stop to wherever you're going? You ask me. I know all the bus stops here. I've driven all the buses in town. This is a small town. And I've driven all over town, different buses down through the years. I'm retired now. What do you want to know about buses and bus stops? I can tell you. You don't need to go no further. That might be the answer, but you got to ask. So you ask that question of somebody who you think might know. And then the next question, and the next question. What does the code say? All problems are solved. All solved through the process of questions and answers. So you ask a question of anybody who you think knows what the answer to your question. That's it. It's simple. My goodness, it's simple. Easier than
Okay. You're breaking up there, Mr. Fuller.
I'm breaking up?
Okay, now I got you back. Yeah, it looked like you broke up there.
All problems are solved. All. Please, everybody, listen. All problems are solved through the process of questions and answers. Now, who do you ask questions of? Somebody who you think might know the answer to your question. think that's pretty simple. I don't think that's complicated. It might be. I know I'm a simple-minded person, and I do it. And I found out from experience that it works every time.
Works every time. Yes, sir. Okay.
Ask questions, you get answers. You keep asking. If you don't get an answer here, because you're going to get an answer to a question. And most of the time, it's been my experience, the answer is what? I don't know.
I don't know.
But
and
then,
it's okay to say you don't know.
If you don't know, you say you don't know. It's not just okay. That's the best thing to say.
Tell the truth.
But the person might say, and I found out from experience this happens. I know who does know.
There you go.
And then I ask another question. Who?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How can I get, and then I ask another question, how can I get in touch with this person?
There you go.
And sometimes the person can't answer that second one.
Mm-hmm.
Say, I don't know where, I ain't got his phone number, nothing like that. You have to ask somebody else that. So what do? You ask somebody else who knows.
Yeah.
I mean, it's simple. It's simple to me, and I'm very simple-minded. I can count myself one of the most simple-minded people that ever lived.
Okay.
You can call it that.
All righty. Going to an email. This has come from Brother Jay. Says, the white supremacist as God. My response to Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. on this topic. Said, Mr. Fuller, I disagree with you on the white supremacist concept of God. The fact is that the white supremacist sees and views himself as God. The last poets put out a record decades ago called, quote, The White Man Has a God Complex, end of quote, which spoke to this. Much of the black world, even in spite of the white supremacist might, stolen power, resource, wealth, still views him as a devil, much in how the early Nation of Islam did. And history texts or just watching the news will bear this out. Mr. Fuller, he is not divine or almighty in any real sense, much in how you even sometimes seem to classify him as being when you go off on tangents and soliloquies in singing his praises. Most of us as black people, again, realize that he yields the bulk of power on this planet, but that also doesn't sit well with most of us either. Like you, we're steadily trying to get the bulk of our people to realize this and join in on the fight. However, where me and you differ is in you sometimes, Mr. Fuller, deifying these devils. I don't have an issue with the term white supremacist like many do because, as you've often said, it's a term they came up with. Don't underestimate your opponent ever, but also don't overestimate or turn him into a god either. Mr. Fuller, you care to respond to that?
Yes.
Okay.
I have never in my entire existence, to the best of my knowledge, said that the white supremacists, individually or collectively, were gods. I want to get that straight for the entire world because that's who I'm talking to. I have never said that. I want to make that clear. Now, I have a question. When did I say that? On the air, off the air? I have never said that. white supremacists are God? I don't recall. I mean, I may have slipped up somewhere, but I don't think I've ever made that kind of slip. Ever. And if somebody said that I said that, I'd like to hear that recording again. Because I am recorded by somebody.
Yeah, no question about that.
I have never said that. So I want to get that straight right out the gate. I have said, to the best of my knowledge, many times, that the white supremacists have said by their actions that they are the God of black people here on the planet. But I have said that the white supremacists have even acknowledged themselves that they have their assignment from God of enslaving black people. I've said that many a time, that the white supremacists themselves have said that. And I think I'm telling the truth when I'm saying that they have said that. That God assigned them. Which means there's a higher power according to the white supremacists. I have said that. And I've said that they have said that. Because if I remember correctly, I have heard that they have said that. No white person has ever told me that directly. But I have heard from many of what I call reliable sources that they have said that that's who they are. That they are servants of God. The white supremacists say that all the time. They say it, you know, I hear white people say that they are servants of God. So they acknowledge there is a God, a higher power, got more power than them. I've heard many a white person say that. Racist suspects and people you might say are not suspects, depending on whom you suspect as being a racist. And so I've taken them at their word from them. But I have never anointed or praised white people as being gods. Ever. But they have asked me to do that, directly and indirectly, because many of them have claimed that they are the servants of God, and as the servants of God, they were assigned to enslave black people. That is our idea of justification for what they do. And I have taken the position, I don't think they were assigned to do nothing of the kind.
Yeah.
That's why I'm in opposition to them, regardless of that. Now, I'm going on and on with this because I want that clearly understood. Praise the white supremacists? No, that's what they want me to do, and they force me to act like I'm doing that. But the Muslims say, even, and they're not Christians, they're Muslims. I don't think they're a Christian. A Muslim is a Christian, and a Christian is a Muslim. But I think in all religions, they say, praise God. Hindus, Confucius, Buddha, they always, directly and indirectly, talk like they believe that there's a greater power than them.
Yes, sir.
Whomever they are. And I believe that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that. I have said repeatedly that people don't create anything. That's why I call God the creator. I say, hey, I'm talking about creation. People don't create. I'm a person. I don't create anything. I can't create anything. Never have created anything. And I don't know any person that's ever created anything. But I think there is a creator.
Yes.
People have arranged things that are already here. Yeah, I want to emphasize this, and I hope that I'm not disturbing anybody's feelings, but I want this to be made clear, because religion is very important. People are over there killing each other in what they call the Holy Land about religion. I don't want to get in that kind of fight with anybody about anything ever, because that's a fight that goes on and on and on. The strongest religion on this planet, and I have said this, is the system of white supremacy.
Yes, you have.
Proven to be.
Yes,
it
you
is
have.
proven to be that among the people of this planet, I don't know about other planets, the system of white supremacy has proven to be the strongest of all religions among the people of planet Earth in the year 2024. Now, I've said that, and I think the evidence shows it.
Yes, and you've proven that when you gave this example of I think it's the statue of the Oscar, and I had been looking at that statue for many years and not paying attention until you, Mr. Fuller, brought up the fact that I believe on the left side or the right side of the Oscar statue that there is a sword. And I'd never seen that until you had made mention of it, and then I examined it. Yeah.
It covers
glorifying killing.
The so-called Oscar
is
a statue that looks to be naked, except one garment, and that is a sword that covers the phallus or the vagina. It's held by its handle. In the center of the body, the replica of the body of a person.
Of a person, yes, sir.
A person with no hair.
I remember that very well.
Naked.
Okay, let's do this one here. Gmail. Comes from England, from Drake. He said this, Dear Mr. Fuller, I recently made up a quote that came into my head on the bus the other day, and I would like to hear you comment on it. The quote is as follows. The cliched image of the, quote, successful, end of quote, black male with a white woman on his arm has done as much damage to the image of black males globally as gangster rap music has done. These types of sexual arrangements have been the biggest failed experiments in any attempt to solve the race problem, and they should be written about and spoken about constructively in that regard by the victims of racism. Kind regards, Anthony Mack. He wanted you to comment on that, Mr. Fuller.
Well, I wouldn't say that, because I understand about rap music. What is the definition? See, so that's my comment. If you compare that to music, but I'm saying the black male having sexual intercourse. Now, being arm in arm, that means just what it says, in my opinion. And to tell the truth, if that's all the person is doing, is putting their arm, around a white person, a black male with a white female, a black person with anybody. I don't see any harm with that if you're just talking about arms. But now, if you're talking about a black male having sexual intercourse with a white female in the system of white supremacy, that damages the black male.
He mentioned the image.
It damages his mind.
Yeah.
And it contributes to the strength of the system of white supremacy.
Okay.
Now, if there were no such thing as white supremacy, it would just be, to use an old cliche saying, boy meets girl.
Yeah.
But within the system of white supremacy, it gives strength to the system of white supremacy.
Okay.
Now, that's
because he was speaking.
That's the way I codified express it.
Yes.
Because it's the truth.
It's the truth. Yeah, he was speaking of that image that it was supposedly portraying. Maybe that was the image that he saw in his head while he was on that bus. But he thought that image of that of that black man with the white woman on his arm was just as harmful as some of the rap music that is out there as being harmful to our to us. That's what he was saying. He was wondering what you thought about that.
Yes, well, that's what I'm thinking. See, it's just two words to consider here. Constructive results. There's a black male with a white woman arm in arm walking down the street or whatever the situation is. Does that contribute in any way to the most constructive results in replacing the system of white supremacy with the system of justice? And I say, as long as the system is in place, the system of white supremacy, it makes the system of white supremacy stronger.
Stronger, yes.
Yes, as long as the system of white supremacy exists.
Okay.
Now, if there were no racism, no system of white supremacy, then it would just be a person with black skin walking with a one gender, male, and a person with white skin, female, walking what they call arm in arm. It'll just be just that.
Okay.
White female with a black male walking arm in arm. But now if somebody implies that they have sexual intercourse, you'd have to find that out and find out if that's true.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. It's a matter of asking questions from that point on.
Okay. Let me do this right quick. Carl, I don't have your name because it's not up here, but I did see the hand. Did you have a quick question for Mr. Fuller? Because I only have about a minute or two. Okay. I don't see it, so okay. All right, Mr. Fuller, I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to wrap this bad boy up. Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Thank you, callers. Thank you, Gmailers. I didn't get a chance to read a whole lot of them, but I did read a lot. But thank you for your questions, your inquiry. Thank you for another session that we were able to contribute, get some information on learning. Mr. Fuller, the final word goes to you before we close it out.
Yes. Think about, I want everybody who is listening, looking at what they call the Bill of Rights in the Constitution. I want to make that clear. You don't have to be familiar with the whole Constitution. Just what they call the amendments to the Constitution.
Yes, sir.
Particularly those that go from the first up through, I would say, the 15th, maybe the 15th, 14th or 15th. Just those. Make yourself familiar with them and use them as a part of the code.
Okay.
Because they do blend in. I look at them all the time, and I'm looking at them more and more.
Okay.
All right? Each word, and become familiar with everything that is said in those amendments.
Okay.
At least from 1 up to the 14th.
Okay. Got to go. Hopefully see you next week. Sorry we were pressed for time. Everybody have a good week. Bye now.